Once you understand the target environment, you can move forward with determining if you can identify any potential vulnerabilities. In order to do that, you will use the information that you have gathered to identify services that use weak authentication methods or that are out of date and contain publicly known vulnerabilities that you have identified using tools such as ExploitDB. Potential applications that will allow you to use the credentials that you have gathered, and the list goes on. But this is the part where all of the domains of the CISSP really come into play. Basically, any potential vulnerability that may lead you towards your penetration testing goal should be identified so that you are ready for the next step, which is exploitation of all of these identified vulnerabilities. You will then attempt to exploit the potential vulnerabilities that you have found. This can sometimes be a long and seemingly hopeless activity and requires you to be very diligent. However, that being said, sometimes you will be able to exploit vulnerabilities immediately. Regardless of how long it takes to find the vulnerabilities and to exploit them, ensure that your steps are well documented and, most of all, repeatable. Keep in mind that some of the exploits do in fact have an associated failure rate. Be sure to keep that in mind when testing and try to find the sweet spot that allows you to know with great certainty that a vulnerability is or is not actually exploitable with current tools and knowledge. It is important to remember that a penetration test is a snapshot in time, and as such, only an indicator of the exploitability of particular vulnerabilities at the moment of the penetration test. For instance, people believed that OpenSSL was secure for years and years, until just a few years back, all the vulnerabilities were released. Once testing has been completed, it is time to finish up the report. Hopefully, you will have detailed notes tracking all of your activities. You will need to make sure that your reports are detailed, but not overly long. This definitely should not be a 500-page report. We will go over reporting in a different module in this course, but when you think about reporting, think about what it is that you would want to see if you were to hire a penetration tester. I imagine that it would be something that is immediately actionable and useful. The reader should be able to take a look at your report, possibly try out the attacks themselves, and then use that information towards any necessary remediation. Ideally, the report should also be prioritized to the best of your ability. I say it in this manner because you will not always know what the exact risk appetite of the organization that you're providing the test results will be. You can base your prioritizations on the experiences and best practices that you're familiar with, but don't be too surprised if an organization states that they will not move forward with your recommended remediation activities. As a penetration tester, you may not always have full insight into the organization, its political climate, capabilities, and resource constraints.